Your attempt to debunk intelligent design, ID, falls short of the requirements necessary for a proper debunking. Instead of providing empirical evidence to refute ID, you've presented speculative statements and relied on explanations that lack concrete, verifiable data. To debunk a theory like ID, you must present solid peer-reviewed evidence that directly counters the claims. Simply offering alternative explanations without addressing the empirical basis for ID is not enough. It's just a difference of opinion, not a scientific rebuttal. First, let's clarify something crucial. Scientific theories are not debunked by opinions or hypothetical models. Theories are discovered and validated through empirical data, rigorous testing, and observable evidence. If you are attempting to refute ID, then it's your responsibility to provide empirical evidence against its claims. What you've done, instead, is offer speculation, which doesn't amount to debunking but rather to offering a different interpretation. You mentioned irreducible complexity, but failed to show how evolutionary biology can empirically account for these systems. Irreducible complexity, a concept introduced by Michael Behe, argues that certain biological systems, such as the bacterial flagellum, are too complex to have evolved through gradual modifications because they cease to function if any one part is removed. You reference co-option and exaptation, but these explanations remain speculative and lack the empirical data to demonstrate how such complex systems can evolve incrementally. For example, the argument that the bacterial flagellum shares parts with the type 3 secretion system does not empirically show how the transition occurred or how it led to the evolution of a fully functional, irreducibly complex structure. Moreover, you point to the RNA world hypothesis, which is still an unproven theory. While it proposes that RNA could have been a precursor to DNA, there is no solid empirical evidence proving that RNA-based life gave rise to DNA and cellular life as we know it. The question of how random processes gave rise to systems where every part must function together, systems like DNA replication and repair, remains unanswered. Evolution fails to address the origins of life, abiogenesis, which leaves a significant gap in its explanatory power. The fact that evolution cannot explain the origin of life is a key issue. Evolution only explains the diversity of life after it already exists, but it offers no insight into how life began. Abiogenesis, the study of how life arose from non-living matter, remains an area where ID provides an alternative hypothesis. ID suggests that the complexity and specified order found in the first living organisms point to a designer, as naturalistic mechanisms have thus far failed to demonstrate how life could emerge from non-living chemicals. You also claim that the designer being outside the natural world makes ID unscientific and purely philosophical. This is an error in logic. Just because a theory posits causes that are outside the scope of what we currently observe does not mean it isn't scientific. Gravity, for instance, is not directly observable, but its effects are measurable, and so is the case with ID. We can observe the effects of design in nature, specified complexity, fine-tuning, and irreducibly complex systems, and infer design as the best explanation. Evolutionary mechanisms, including random mutation and natural selection, have yet to account for the emergence of such complex systems. The claim that mutations and selection alone can generate the complexity seen in life forms, especially in systems like DNA replication or the bacterial flagellum, is not backed by empirical evidence showing the step-by-step evolution of these systems. What you are presenting as evidence for evolution is speculative, not empirical. In conclusion, you've failed to meet the requirements to debunk ID because you've offered opinions and speculation instead of presenting data or research that refutes its core claims. ID is based on empirical observations of irreducible complexity, specified complexity, and fine-tuning, none of which have been adequately explained by naturalistic processes. Evolution, particularly in its inability to explain abiogenesis, fails to address the origins of life, which is why it remains incomplete as a scientific theory. Until evolutionary biology can provide empirical evidence explaining the origin of life and the development of irreducibly complex systems, ID remains a valid scientific hypothesis deserving serious consideration.